Welcome to the Escape into Board Games podcast.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Matt.
And this is our escape from the real world where we talk about board games. In this episode, we explore some hidden gems.
So please join us for the Escape into Board Games podcast.
With literally thousands of new board games being released each year, it's impossible to experience them all.
With that flood of new games, it's easy to miss a promising title.
And with our obsession with the cult of the new, we will sometimes forget about that cherished game that hasn't seen the table for a while.
In this episode, we put the spotlight on our game shelves in hopes of rediscovering some games that will shine again in an episode that we call Hidden Gems.
So hidden gems, what makes a game a hidden gem?
Yeah. It doesn't have a large following on Facebook, I can tell you that. Right?
Instagram has kind of forgotten about some of these games.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's so many games out there that you could probably talk about just about any of them, and it could be considered diluted by the sheer quantity of games out there.
Right. And that's why we're going to talk about Blood Rage. No, I agree. There are so many games, and 90% of them either fall under most people's radar or, if you're not heavily into the game community, you miss out on it entirely.
Yeah.
And no one can play them all. There's just not enough time.
So true.
I have one that I want to talk about that's actually won an award.
Oh.
It's been reprinted, and it's won a very prestigious board game award. But I still think it qualifies under the hidden gems category because it's one that I've introduced to a lot of people who play a lot of games regularly.
Yeah.
And hadn't played this one or hadn't appreciated it for what it is. And it's one of my favorites. It's definitely, I would say, in my top 10.
Okay.
And I feel like it needs some attention. So I would call it a hidden gem.
The amount of praise and love it's getting is disproportionate to the quality of game it is.
Yeah. It's about expectations, right?
Mm.
If you go into the game and you're just expecting an ordinary game, a quick little nothing game, and you come away feeling, wow, that was an experience.
Yeah.
Or that was much more thinky and strategic than I thought it was going to be. Or that was so much fun. I didn't think this game about stacking things was going to make me laugh so hard. All of those are exceeding your expectations in some way.
Yeah. The game that I want to present first is one of those small games that you talk about, one of those little know-nothing games. It's a tiny little box. It's got some very simple mechanisms, just a few cards and some cubes, but it's bigger on the inside.
Right.
Like once you get into it and start playing it, you realize, oh, okay, there is a little bit of meat to here. There's a little something to sink my teeth into, even though it plays in about 35 minutes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sometimes the size of the box adds to your expectations, right?
Yeah.
You pull out this giant box that's full of plastic miniatures, not much game there. And it's like, oh, that kind of fizzled. It wasn't that great.
Yeah.
And then you pull out the tiny little box and it's like, wow, that was awesome. That was so much fun.
Yeah.
That blew me away. Like that tiny little box that cost $14.99 brand new. It really is quite a good game.
The Boss. The Boss is a bidding, bluffing, area majority mafia card game for 2 to 6 players, ages 10 and up, that plays in about 40 minutes. The Boss was designed by Elaine Ollier and published by Blue Orange Games in 2010. It's the golden age of gangsters, fedoras, and Tommy guns. Players are playing members of the mob under Al Capo, the mob leader. Players are trying to secure jobs at various cities that are represented as cards on the table. You have to size up each job before committing your crew, or they may end up injured, arrested, or sleeping with the fishes. With careful planning and some deduction, you will hopefully walk away with the biggest take.
I love this game.
Yeah. It's this tiny little box. It's the size of like Ghost Splits.
Exactly.
It's so unsuspecting. And it's just a few cards that represent these cities. You got Memphis, Chicago, New York, and they sit out on the table. Each of the locations has a series of cards associated with it, and one of these cards is hidden in that location, and the other cards are distributed amongst the players. In this way, you have a little bit of information to know if there's a bad card at New York, or if there's $4,000 waiting for you in Detroit. In each round, players are either assigning gangsters to one of these cities and then revealing one of their cards from their hand.
And that way, everyone can get some more information about the card that is hidden under each of those cities. By the process of elimination, players can see that, okay, the 3 is gone, the 2 is gone, so that means it's either a 1 or a 0 left in New York.
That's right, yeah.
So I'm either going to get $1,000 or $0 kind of thing.
So, for example, in Detroit, you can possibly get a 1,000, a 2,000, a 3,000, or a 4,000 card. But there's a very good chance that it could be a gun. And if the gun is at that station and you win that card, then one of your gang members is eliminated.
Right. And some of the cards have this little hospital icon. So if you win the card that is the hospital card instead of money, that means one of your gangsters is going to go into the hospital. They were injured on the job and you don't have them for the next round.
So it's through careful deduction. You have to figure out which cards are at which location.
Exactly.
And it's really quite clever. You have a few cards in your hand, of course. So you might have the gun card in your hand and you'll know that Detroit is safe.
Right.
But you might not know if it's a 1,000 card or a 4,000 card under that location. This is a deduction game where you're trying to figure out what card is at each location, and you have some of the information in your hand.
Yeah.
And you know what colors your opponents are holding.
Right.
So you know, oh, Chris has got a blue card, just one blue card in his hand, and he put all of his gangsters on the blue Detroit. So he must know that Detroit is safe because he's holding the gun.
Right.
Your opponent's decisions are helping you figure out what's at each location.
Yeah.
Each time it becomes your turn, you can choose to put some gangsters at a location if you want to. You don't have to. And then you have to play a card. So each round, more and more cards are coming out. And of course, you want to hold the cards in your hand that give the most information. If you've got the 4,000 card in your hand, you just keep holding on to that and make it look like you're holding the gun. People could be fighting over Detroit thinking they're going to get like a big payout, right? And then in the end, you're like, oh, sorry, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
It's a big goose egg.
My copy is published by Blue Orange Games.
Yeah.
And that's a factor, I think, in what makes it a hidden gem. I find sometimes, depending on who I'm playing with, I'll pull out this tiny little box and it's Blue Orange Games. And the publisher is, they're known for games of all ages. They primarily do, younger children's games, family, lightweight games.
That's right. Yeah.
And this one is somewhat light. I mean, it's easy to learn. It's fast to play, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You don't have to know a lot of rules or weigh a lot of decisions.
For sure. Yeah. It is very, very quick to learn.
But it's deceptively thinky and strategic and hard to play it really well. Like I find every time I've played, I've made at least one big mistake that's either messed up my score or I've overcome somehow through luck.
Yeah, it's definitely a small box with a big punch.
Yeah, it's a good one. I really like it. You can try out the boss on Board Game Arena. You can try it out there online for free. Sometimes when you are looking at a game and you have expectations about it, sometimes those expectations are set by the price of the game.
Oh, that is so true. Yeah.
Like if you go to a thrift store and you find a game that you've never played before, but it's $4.99.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, as long as it's not a horrible game that's really boring.
Yeah.
If all the pieces are there and the game's in good shape, all of a sudden that game shines just a little bit brighter on the shelf.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, look at this deal I got.
And at the same token, it doesn't matter how good Blood Rage is. We're not going to talk about it on this episode.
So the game I'm going to talk about next is one of those. I got it on sale at our local store. And I think it was like $18 or $20, including tax or something along those lines. And had never played it, read a little bit, watched a video, sounded good. And I was like, for $20, that's a night out, for my wife and I.
Yeah.
It's a great game. I think I would have enjoyed this game if I'd paid $40 for it.
I'm so jealous I didn't pick it up when you did.
We'll have to find you a copy. I'm sure we'll get one. Ceylon. Ceylon is a tea planting and harvesting set collection territory building game for 2 to 4 players that plays in about 60 minutes for ages 10 and up. Ceylon was designed by Chris and Suzanne Zinsley and published in 2018 by Ludonova. During the second half of the 19th century, in what was then Ceylon, today known to all as the nation of Sri Lanka, a fungus killed off all the coffee plantations on the island and caused a serious economic crisis. The country's entrepreneurs set about substituting tea plantations for the decimated coffee plantations, and hence creating what many connoisseurs today consider to be the best tea in the world. In Ceylon, players are building plantations and planting teas in the different districts and at different elevations, developing the necessary technology to produce the tea, and then selling them to the different export companies. What's really cool is the board's divided into a few different districts, and it's got a bunch of hexes that are all connected in each district. And at the beginning of the game, during setup, you take out these large cardboard pieces that fit on the hexes, and there'll be like 3 or 4 hexes all together in different shapes.
Yeah.
And you add one to each district, and that kind of elevates the hexes in those districts. And then you take these little individual hexes and you put them each on one of those larger cardboard pieces. So what you've created is this sort of tiers or different elevations of, mountains or heights that you can grow your tea at.
Okay. Different tea grows at different heights.
Yeah. So you've got the bottom layer, which is the actual board itself, creating the least valuable, I guess, of teas.
Okay.
Then the first tier of height is, the medium range of tea, and the highest height on the board creates the most valuable element of tea, I guess.
Okay.
And you will go around the board and you will be planting different plantations to grow teas. And wherever you build your plantation is the type of tea that you will grow. You'll see a number of export companies are looking for shipments of different kinds of tea. So there's black cubes, there's white cubes, and there's green cubes. And this company wants one of each. Another company wants 4 black cubes, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Filling contracts. Eh?
Yeah, fulfilling contracts. And you have these cards, and this is the part that I love. There's so much choice and so much conflict in your decisions with the cards that come in the game. So the cards have an upside and a downside. And when you play them, you put them on the board, and the top section is just for you on your turn when you play the card.
Right.
And the bottom section is an action that can be played by everybody else at the table. Mm-hmm. So there's always sort of this give and take. I'm taking this great action. I'm going to harvest my plantations right now. And to do that, though, the only card I have that also provides everyone else at the table the opportunity to advance on the technology track.
Oh, yeah.
So you're building technologies that are going to get you more points and build your teas a little bit better.
And everybody gets to do something on everybody's turn.
Yeah, it's a game with like almost no downtime. Like you're always doing something on someone else's turn. There's a little bit of downtime while players sort of agonize over, I've got 3 cards and there's 2 options on each. Which side do I want and which side don't I want to give to the other players? But as well, each card has this little section in the middle that anyone can do. So just because I played the harvest action doesn't necessarily mean that I have the means to harvest or it's ideal time for me to harvest. So I can just play the harvest side on my side so that no one else could play it.
Right.
and take that middle action, which anyone can take, which is either just take some money or move around the board.
Yeah. The multi-use cards are really interesting.
Yeah, multi-use cards, and every card, if you're the one who's playing it and you're not using bonus turns, you've got an option of one of 4 different things for every card that you play.
Yeah, wow.
And you're giving to everyone else one of 3 different possible actions that they play on your turn.
Yeah.
I love that push and pull, that drama. Like it's, that's what makes movies great, is the drama, right? It's like,
that's right.
If the main character does this, then everyone else is going to get to do that. That's what's happening every turn on this game.
Every single turn, yeah.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of actions. There's, I think, 4 or 5 different actions, plus the ones that anyone can do on their turn, which is move and collect some money.
Right.
And you are getting points at the end of the game through a sort of a point salad kind of way.
Okay.
With how far you've advanced on the technology track, so how big and prestigious your company is, how many T contracts that you've sold, and then it's a bit of a majority. So whoever has the most money, there's like a little table. So first place, second place, third place, fourth place gets so many points. But what I also like about the game is money is quite tight. So money's hard to get. So when you're fulfilling contracts, you can choose to take either victory points that go face up on the board, or you can take money.
Right.
So at some point in the game, you have to decide, I've had enough money. Now I'm going to start taking victory points from the contracts that I fulfill.
Yeah.
And this is a key factor in how you win, because when you make that decision will decide how much money you have and how many contracts you get to fulfill and how many victory points you get on the board.
Yeah.
But remember, money is also one of the things that get you points at the end of the game. Whoever has the most money, that gets them a certain number of victory points at the end. Yeah.
That's awesome. I can't get over how beautiful the game is.
Yeah.
Like the board is gorgeous. It's this landscape with rivers and rocks and stuff. And we've seen maps before countless times. And it's always this fight between form and function.
Yeah.
Oh, everything's bright red because you need to be able to see it. And everything's high contrast because you need to be able to see it. And this is just, it's just pretty. It is just so pretty. I'm a big fan of the font that they use in this game. I don't know what it is. It's just something about it as this aesthetic. You don't see a lot of games that look like this game.
Yeah.
The victory points are little tea leaves. And so you have little tea leaf wooden icons on the board.
And it starts with the box cover. I mean, the box cover is gorgeous. Yeah. It looks like a little crate of teas that you've bought. It's like, oh, I need to have a cup of tea while we play this, because I'm salivating a little bit at just the box cover.
Sometimes when a game comes out, it fits a particular genre or criteria or mechanism that is so hot right now. And it gets lost in the shuffle. Roll-in rights are incredibly popular right now, and they're a dime a dozen. But the one that I played the other night is fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. Like, there are so many roll-in rights. This one completely fell under the radar for me, and I have to say I love it. It's really, really a good little game.
Next Station London. Next Station London is a network-building, paper and pencil, flip and write game for 1 to 4 players, ages 8 and up, that plays in about 30 minutes. Next Station London was designed by Matthew Dunstan and published by Blue Orange Games in 2022. The City of London has commissioned you to redesign its underground network, optimize connections, serve as many tourist sites as possible, and exploit the tunnels that pass under the Thames. So in Next Station London, players are designing the underground on a map of London where certain locations in London are marked in special symbols: circle, square, triangle, and pentagon. In a typical turn of Next Station London, the turn begins by turning over a card. On that card, we'll have a symbol telling players where their next station needs to be.
Next Station London is a flip and write game, which is a sort of evolution of the roll and write game. A roll and write game is where you roll dice, and depending on what symbol or what number is on those dice, it allows you to do certain things in the game.
Mm-hmm.
A flip and write, which I always think it sounds like a dolphin game, but it's a flip and write game. It's where you flip cards, whatever symbols or numbers that are on the card, they allow you to do things in the game. So in London, what happens is you flip a card and there's a symbol on it, and you're drawing a line from your current station to the next station on your map that matches that symbol. There are some rules about that. You have to draw a straight line, and the new station matches the symbol on the card.
You also can't cross another track that you've previously laid down.
Yeah, we don't want train accidents.
That's right. You can cross the trains at a station. So more than one train can service the same station, but they can't cross anywhere that's not a station.
Exactly. That's called an interchange. So the more stations that interchange give you more victory points at the end of the game. So if you have a station that two different lines in the game end up feeding, then you're going to get a certain amount of points for that. And if that station has 4 different lines, which is the most in the game, it'll get you more points than one with 2.
What's unique about this flip and write game is that each player at the table is holding a different colored pencil.
Yeah.
In my 4-player game, one of us had a red pencil, another one had a blue pencil, another one had a purple pencil, and the fourth one had a green pencil. And we are all drawing that line of the pencil we have in our hands. So when I had the red pencil in my hand, I was drawing the red line.
Yeah.
And while I'm drawing the red line, my opponent is drawing the green line and somebody else is drawing the purple line.
Yeah.
And then after we finish the line, we go through that deck of cards, we switch pencils, and we go through the deck again.
And what I love about that is you're drawing lines with different colors. And that's literally what subway or underground lines are called. They're called lines, right?
That's true.
You get on the green line and then you have to switch to the red line to get to work, right?
In Toronto, we got the yellow and the blue and the green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're redesigning the lines of the London Underground with 4 different colors of lines. It's awesome. It works so well.
It is. It works really well. Players will get bonus points if we're able to hit tourist attractions, or if you're able to cross the Thames, which is kind of interesting because now you're motivated to cross the Thames as many times as you can.
Yep.
And so you got this zigzag happening sometimes where you're like, why did the train do that?
Yeah.
Why do we keep crossing the Thames? What is going on?
It's one of those games you want to do everything. You want to cross the Thames as much as you can.
Yeah.
You also get points for going into the different districts. So each player board is divided up into...
It's sort of a tic-tac-toe, right? Like there's 9 districts, but then each corner is also a district?
Yeah, it's 13 different districts. And if you can make your line, your color of line, go into as many districts as possible, that's going to give you some additional points as well.
In typical flip and write fashion, players are given a nice colorful sheet that they get to record all their stuff on. And again, it looks like one of these bingo cards or a lottery ticket with colorful boxes for checking off things. And of course, the map of London. This is very intuitive. It's very easy to score this game. Everybody knows what we're trying to do. And so there's no like hidden points or like, oh, I didn't realize we could capitalize on that at the end.
Yeah.
It's very, very easy to pick up. It's really quick and so satisfying. I couldn't get over how satisfying it was to draw those lines.
Yeah, it's true. And to see your lines completed at the end, it's like, wow, look I didn't get to that side of the map at all.
That's right.
Those poor commuters.
That's right.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. And seeing all the different tourist sites around and the different things that you want to do, making sure you've connected to as many of them as possible. That's fun when it's all done.
Yeah.
It's another game that's in a tiny little box.
Yeah.
And coincidentally, it's another blue-orange game.
Yeah.
Quite good. Very, very good. Very interesting, satisfying, under-the-radar game.
We're going to get back to the show after a brief message. This next ad is for Chris's own company, Geeky Goodies. If you'd like to hear what an ad for your game, product, or website might sound like, drop us a line at escapeintoboardgames@gmail.com. When we escape into board games, we're always wearing our Geeky Goodies t-shirts.
They are great conversation starters for gamers and non-gamers.
But did you know that they also sell drink coasters, socks, mouse pads, cupcake toppers, and so much more?
All things board games.
All things geeky.
Visit geekygoodies.com and use coupon code ESCAPE for a 10% discount off your purchase.
So Next Station London is a good example of a game that is coming out, it's fresh, it's new, but you're going to miss it because of the deluge of other games that fit in that same criteria. The next game we're going to present is a little different. It, like you said earlier, has won an award. It's won the prestigious Spiel des Jahres.
Yes.
It's a huge family favorite. It is very, very high on the Board Game Geek ranking. But I think it's a hidden gem because of the sheer volume of very popular games that came out after it. Board games exploded in 2016 to 2018, and this game came out in 2015, and I think that's why it's been lost.
That's a good point, because I find that not a lot of people know this game or are familiar with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I love this game. This game is in my top 10. Broom Service. Broom Service is a simultaneous action selection, hand management, potion pick up and deliver game for 2 to 5 players ages 10 and up that plays in about 60 to 75 minutes. Broom Service was designed by Andreas Pelikan and Alexander Pfister and published by Ravensburger in 2015. In a game of Broom Service, players become witches, druids, and gatherers, producing powerful potions and delivering them by Broom Service throughout the magical kingdom. Round after round, enchanted rivals compete to provide potions to the castles in the realm and be the best Broom Service. A game of Broom Service is played over several rounds in which all players have the same 10 cards. On your turn, you're going to choose 4 cards that you're going to play. It's not really a pre-programmed sort of game, but in a way, what you're saying is, I'm going to play only these 4 cards this round. And we're going to go around the table, and whoever is the first player is going to play their card. And when you play your card, you have to decide right away if you're going to play the card bravely or cowardly. And you do that by saying, I am a brave mountain witch, for example, if you're playing the mountain witch. Or if you were playing the mountain witch card, you might say, I am a cowardly mountain witch. Mm-hmm. If you play the card bravely, you get a much bigger reward.
Right.
If you play the card cowardly, you get a smaller reward. However, there's a risk in playing every card bravely in that anybody who plays after you in that round who has also chosen that card in their 4-card hand, they are required to play their card as well at that time. So if I play first and I say, I am a brave mountain witch, and then you play next and you say, no, I am the brave mountain witch.
Yeah.
What happens in that situation is I get nothing. Mm-hmm. I don't get to play that card. The card goes down in front of me and I get nothing out of it.
Skip a turn.
Yeah, skip my turn, exactly. And you get to take the big reward for being the brave. However, in a 3 or 4 or 5 player game, there's other players who may also have chosen the Mountain Witch. And we're going to go around the table one by one. Anyone who's played the Mountain Witch card must play their card, and they have to decide if they want to play it bravely or cowardly. The last person to play bravely gets the brave reward, which is the big reward, and anybody who plays their card cowardly gets their reward right away, the smaller reward.
Right.
But they get it right away and no one can take it away from them, which is great. Each card has that bravely and cowardly function. And it says right on the card, the script that you say,
I am a cowardly root gatherer and immediately produce 1 orange potion or 1 magic wand.
As opposed to the...
I am a brave root gatherer and produce 1 orange potion and 2 magic wands.
So what happens in the game is there are 3 different colored potions, and the other resource in the game are these magic wands that you mentioned. And you're playing cards to gather the different potions, and then you're playing cards to move around the board and or deliver the potions to the different towers.
Yeah.
So the board is divided up by these different terrains:
Hill,
mountain,
prairie,
and forest. Each one of them is a different color, and they match the cards that you're playing. Some of the cards let you gather, and some of them let you deliver. As well, there are certain sections of the board that block off areas to everyone with clouds. To charm away a cloud, you need to play your Weather Fairy card and have the required number of magic wands.
Giving you access to more lucrative areas of the board, right?
Right. And as well, the clouds themselves give you victory points at the end of the game. Each potion that you deliver on the board provides victory points in different amounts. The ones that are closest to where everyone starts out provide fewer victory points. They're much more lucrative as you get farther away. Movement on the board is kind of difficult. You have 2 witch pawns, which are these wooden meeple that look like a little person wearing a witch hat. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. Mm-hmm. And on your turn, when you play a brown card, you can move either of your 2 meeple into an adjacent brown terrain.
Right. Mm-hmm.
As well, there are event cards that bend the rules a little bit each round.
They're the round counter, right? There's a certain number of event cards. Each round gets an event card, and once you're done all the event cards, the game's over.
Yeah. They will do things like...
Flock together. If both a player's pawns are in the same type of region at the end of the round, the player gets 4 victory points.
Right. So they don't have to be on the same district in the board, just the same terrain type.
More or less. At the beginning of the round, each player chooses 1 to 5 roll cards and gains or loses the corresponding number of victory points.
Right. Instead of playing your usual 4 cards in a round, you can choose to play 1, but you're going to get like 10 victory points for just playing the 1 card this round.
But then you won't get any turns to get victory points either.
You won't get any turns, exactly.
Yeah.
So the drama or the tension from this game comes from, that decision where you have to decide, do I want to play this cowardly and just get the small reward or the big reward by playing it brave? And trying to read the other players at the table and where they stand on the board and in their scoring. What is the likelihood that they played that same card? Because if no one played that card and you're the only one who played the Weather Fairy, then you can be brave. But you, of course, don't know that until you play it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's such a great mechanism. As we're going around the table, we're going in clockwise order. So the first player says, I'm going to play the Weather Fairy cowardly. And then everybody's like, oh, Weather Fairy. We go around Weather Fairy, Weather Fairy, Weather Fairy, and we go around the table. It becomes more and more likely that the players at the end are going to play their Weather Fairy brave because there are less players after them.
Right.
If you are the last player to be asked if you have the Weather Fairy card, and you do have the Weather Fairy card, well, you're going to play it bravely, right? Because there's nobody after you. Usually.
Because the other factor is, if you were the last player to play bravely and you got the big reward, you go first when you play your next card. And now your next card, you have the hard decision of, do I want to play it cowardly or bravely?
Yeah. I personally always play cowardly because I'm the first player. If I'm at a table with 4 other players, chances are the card I'm going to play is in somebody else's hand. And if I play it bravely, they're just going to snipe me on it.
Yeah.
So if I'm the first player, I'm generally going to play cowardly because I don't know the odds. But there's so much more going on.
There is, because what else happens is if I have played 3 cards that you didn't have of your 4.
Right.
So you chose 4 and I chose 4, and I played 3 of them and none of them were in your hand.
And I still have 4 cards in my hand.
You still have 4 cards.
Yeah.
And now you have to decide whether to choose cowardly or brave. You can choose brave and you go first next turn. That means of your 3 cards, you only have to worry about one of my cards matching one of yours.
Yeah.
And that happens with everyone around the table. As the more cards get played, the fewer cards they have in their hand. And if you're somebody who's lucky to have had 3 or 4 of your cards left late this round, and everyone either has no cards or 1 card each, you know you can play bravely more likely and not get burned.
Yeah.
It's this real push your luck. It's hard to plan, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That brave, cowardly thing creates a lot of tension, a lot of drama in your decision making, but it also creates a lot of randomness because first you were going to gather the green potion, then you were going to move to the forest and deliver the green potion, but in between that you needed to charm away the cloud that was in your way. So you want your cards to come out in a certain order.
Yeah.
But if you have to move before you've gathered the ingredients to make your potion, that's not going to work out for you.
Yeah.
Or if you have to deliver your potion before you're in that area that will accept that potion because there's a cloud in your way because you didn't get your weather fairy out at the right time.
Yeah.
So there's some strategy in that. You have to plan a backup move.
Yeah.
And that's why you have 2 pawns in this game.
Exactly. I was just going to say, you're going to play 4 cards this round. And like you said, you can't choose the order. So it almost makes sense to choose actions that could be played out of order.
Yeah.
So usually on one round, I try to gather with both of my pawns. And then on the next round, I'm moving with my pawns so that I have options depending on which order the cards come out in.
Exactly. Or another way to strategize it is to see I'm in a district where there are towers that both want orange potions. That's awesome. So all I got to do is make an orange potion and I can deliver it anywhere. So I'm going to play these 2 cards. One that lets me make the orange potion and one that makes me drop it off.
Right.
That kind of thing. So, and there's still some luck. I mean, there is luck. It can be a frustrating game for some people.
It can be, yeah.
There is luck. And if you're someone who's not very good at reading what your opponents are going to do or what they need to do, and in what order they need to do them, a game can be quite frustrating.
Yeah, agreed. We've talked about this before. I'm not that kind of player to look at another player's game state.
Yes.
And figure out what they're going to, they're definitely going to weather fairy this round, right? Like, there's enough going on my own plate, and the things that I want to do that I can't focus on. But that is something you could do if you had that mental capacity to juggle all of those balls. You definitely could look around the table, see what everybody's trying to do, and then adjust your strategy, knowing what cards are likely going to come out that round.
Yeah.
So when you say push your luck, it's push your luck for sure. But because those little threads are there for you to look at, it's different than zombie dice.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, let's just roll the dice and see what happens. Oh, I busted. Oops. Right? But there's more going on there than that. There's, again, like you said, how many cards are behind me in my turn?
Yeah.
Right? I've got 3 people behind me, but they're each holding 1 card.
Right.
Well, maybe I can go brave on this one.
And 2 of them aren't going to be root gatherers because they have tons of the root potion in front of them.
Yeah.
So they don't need that. So you only have to worry about that one player. And you have to look at where they are on the board. Is it a card that they're likely to play?
And I just love that.
Yeah. I love Broom Service.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the chaos of it. I love the requirement that you have to have not just a plan, but a couple backup plans for every round. It's a 7-round game, and it lasts, like I said, about an hour, but it feels a lot deeper and longer than that because every round there's 4 cards, and every round you have to decide, do I want to be brave? How brave do I feel? You can play the whole game being cowardly and still do well.
That's awesome.
Broom Service scales really well, whether you're playing with 2 players or 5 players.
Okay.
I feel like it was designed to be played with 5 players.
That's the only player count I've had it at, and I assumed that was the only way it would work because it works so well.
Yeah, it does work really, really well. But it works fantastically well with lesser players because let's say you're playing with 4 players, is you take that 5th player deck, you shuffle the cards, and every round you're going to flip over a card, and that card becomes what they call bewitched. And anyone who chooses to use that roll on their turn loses 3 victory points.
Ouch.
Yeah. So you see, okay, the weather fairy. If I choose it, it has to be worth 3 victory points for me to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, am I going to get more points than that? Or is it required for everything else I'm going to do this turn, so I might as well bite the bullet and lose the 3 victory points?
Chances are when you play that Weather Fairy, you're going to play it bravely because you assume that the rest of the players at the table haven't played it because of that 3 victory point deficiency.
Exactly.
But wouldn't it be amazing if somebody came out after you and said, no, I am the brave Weather Fairy. And now you've lost 3 victory points and you haven't done anything.
It's got this great theme, the whole magic and the witches and the drama of the decisions. Just absolutely adore this game.
It reminds me of Kiki's Delivery Service, that Studio Ghibli Miyazaki movie where the little witch becomes a delivery person for a bakery.
It could be rethemed that for sure.
I wish it would be rethemed that. That would be amazing. Not to detract from Vincent Dutray's art, though, because Vincent Dutray has done the art for this, and it looks fantastic.
It does.
It's not a Miyazaki movie, but it is very, very pretty.
That's true. It's got good art.
Yeah.
It's a great game. One of my favorites.
Have you played any of the games that we've talked about today? What's your favorite hidden gem? Drop us a line at escapeintoboardgames@gmail.com. Thanks for listening to the Escape Into Board Games podcast. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Escape Into Board Games. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps more people discover Escape Into Board Games, and you can get an Escape Into Board Games t-shirt at geekygoodies.com/escapeintoboardgames. Or you can help us fuel the show by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/escapeintoBGS.
This episode is produced by Matt McKenzie and Chris Cormier. Sound editing by Matt McKenzie. Production assistance by Sherry Cormier. Music by John Yasut and Daniel Carlton. See you at the next escape.